but he didn't know, he didn't want to.
Is that the baby?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they had a kibosh because he wouldn't take it from the nipple.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, tiny.
He's bigger than a sack of flour. Yeah, right? Yeah, about a little over 5 pounds. He's got my kid for my dad.
Good morning. The meeting is now live, but it is considered unlisted until the end of the meeting.
I know. You hardly know.
Like pain.
We're gonna get started in just 1 minute.
Okay, great. Yeah, the kids were actually like.
Oh, I bet. How adorable.
They were going back and forth, the 2 4-year-old girls.
Mr. Mikowski.
They were like, they were like,
Oh, okay.
back and forth. He's 3 weeks now? Yeah. Yeah. He's in newborn clothes. He's in newborn clothes, but they're all big on him. He's only 6'1". Yeah.
So everything's teeny tiny.
Yeah. I know, yes, I took the 2 little girls Sunday night through yesterday afternoon, so it's good that this meeting's today, because I have 2 little girls and. Yeah, it was a lot, but last night, they came back over last night, I was kind of like, okay, I kind of need a little break. Just a little one, give me a break. Hey. My sister was covering the farm market, since Sunday, so I'm like, I just have to go check the market. Do my part. I need to go look at rocks sometime. Yeah. Rest.
No, don't take the moves and then I'll follow you.
Yeah, I know, yeah. It's like a big news.
They put rocks, they put all.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I know, I'm a little stoners. Rock collectors. We're all rockers and stoners, but yeah, my husband doesn't care for stoners.
One
so
screw at a
rockers,
time,
but,
boss.
I do, I still.
They love them. Oh, yeah. I find pebbles all over the house.
The other day I
was
opened the dryer and there was rock.
Oh,
nice.
That's always a bunch of mother.
Yeah. You don't hear it till, till the end.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was real great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're the one that look at it, you know that, I know.
It's so funny because I like green rocks.
You know,
in my
you-
box and
God love them, you know.
my granddaughter loves yellow or gold rocks, like
Oh,
yellow quartz.
Yeah.
So she was yellow rock, any
I think
yellow.
we're in
That's
trouble
okay.
in the Middle East.
So like yellow rocks.
We're in
And
trouble
then little
here.
grandson, he's cute, he'll bring you grains.
All the little stuff,
Gravel.
it takes one guy.
Yeah.
two guys to
Yeah,
get
Finley
stuff.
does that. Yeah, mom.
I live with the Iranians down there.
Beautiful lake.
Since I
Yeah,
did.
high on the gravel.
Yeah.
Later in the day.
They have diplomatic passports, they-
If you have to go to the house and pick them up and like clear it out.
Yeah, we
and
did.
put it outside the rock pile, like they're like, these are special rocks.
Supposed to-
That's inside, yes, they were right here, yeah, all the special
Wow.
ones right there. I'm gonna take a where, is that a background or is that?
Yeah, she said that's just a background.
Yeah, cause she's out east, right?
Yeah, that looks out west.
She said it's Mount Zion.
Plymouth Rock. What it, where is that?
Oh, Utah?
Is that west?
It's Utah.
Is it
I think
Utah?
it's Utah.
That looks like Utah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've only been in a little bit of Utah, but.
Yeah, I've not been in any of it. Morgan's like, I'd like to go.
I missed the conference in Utah, and that would have been a good one to go to, just. Not that I ever had much time to see, but it was.
Right, right.
Big time, just like,
Add a couple of days to the flight.
so hard, so.
Enjoy, Sherry.
Kind of charged, because sometimes like conferences are only a couple days and so you.
Okay, yeah, it's
you make
hard.
it more worthwhile.
Ready,
Yeah.
Jim?
Yep, I'm ready.
Oh my God, Molly's down there.
I'm just observing. Learning things.
Commissioner Lautner, would you lead us in the pledge in a moment of silence, please?
I'd be happy to. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Kramer. Present. Commissioner O'Rourke.
Here.
Commissioner Wexler.
Present.
Chairman Russell.
Here.
Commissioner Ross.
Present.
Commissioner Albert.
Here.
Commissioner Lauer.
Present.
Thank you. Well, there's an agenda before us. I've asked the undersheriff to give us a quick update on a issue that you may read about in the Enterprise today. And we also have some developments in the Point project that we thought everybody here ought to hear. And we've asked the Point people to be online here at 9:30 with us. Then Sean will join us at 10 o'clock to pick up with the rest of our budget discussions. The Point project is they're facing some problems, so they're going to brief us on that. So with those two, I've asked for approval of the agenda with some announcements in advance.
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Support.
All those in support of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. We now have public comment.
No.
Let's start, Mr. Kiesel, with you. I know you're limited on what you can say, but if you could.
Good morning.
Morning. Good morning.
So presumably there will be an article in the Enterprise today. The sheriff was approached by the Enterprise with 3 questions essentially about the, I don't know if you'd call it a dispute, the ongoing negotiation between the deputies union and the county. He kept his comments brief, strictly to his portion as a co-employer. It was very limited. He feels the need to respond when questioned. Since then, I think the attorney has tried to limit, not necessarily strike him or limit anything, but there'll be an article today. Like I said, it is limited. The sheriff kept it where it needed to be, and it hasn't divulged or spoke to anything that it shouldn't have. So just so you're aware, there will be an article today.
We didn't want you to read that tonight and have questions about it. It's not a crisis, just
No,
ongoing.
by far from a crisis. It was more of a operational end if there was going to be any effects, which there have not been, nor is it any of our concern. We're simply there as the co-employer for operations. So.
Any questions for the undersheriff?
No.
Thank you.
No problem.
I just add that we spoke with the attorney this morning on several issues and everything is proceeding. I believe that the negotiation committee, which is Commissioner Wessel and Commissioner Lautner, again, we met with the attorney this morning. These are similar issues that the board has been apprised of previously. So this is not new information and not a new situation. It's just the ongoing. So is that a fair statement?
A little bit on the, before the Point people join us, we received a call yesterday and they are having to delay their project for a number of different reasons. This delay, not stop, but they informed us that they were facing some challenges. Some of it was permitting, some of it was anticipating some fiber availability from the tribe. Some of it was some issues with staffing and we asked them to speak to us today because there certainly are budget implications and a delay in that project and how we want to handle that. So we will have David from Alabama on the phone. We'll have Chris Scherer, our consultant on Zoom, and we'll have Dan, the construction manager, on the phone. We've asked them to be very upfront, and then we're going to figure out how we want to communicate with all the people that we've been assuring we're on schedule, that there's gonna be somewhat of a delay on that. Not stop, but a delay, and some people have been counting on that. But that's not gonna happen until 9:30. Sean, you wanna?
Morning, Councilman.
Morning,
Strong or not yet?
Did you all get the attachments? Would handouts be helpful? I don't have anything in addition to what was sent by Laurel last night.
Did Laurel send that to the clerk?
Sean, I really appreciate your handouts and the colors. It's almost
I got
like.
one, I got one, Sean.
I'm not sure the color.
We could get just a couple more colors in it, you know,
I-
like dark green or something.
We used to have names for some of those colors. We named them after people like dogs. So there was a Dawn McHale yellow, which is what I'm fond of on there. So I believe that the
Thank you.
ask where we left last week, but let me check and see if this is a good start point for everybody, was to try to separate what had been our working list of remaining items to consider as we've worked our way through line items, departments, projects, to try to separate them into two buckets. And for lack of a better word, one of the buckets is operational in nature. The second one I struggled with because I think we've thrown around words like capital, which I don't think it really defines it, because there are capitalized items that are not, there are capitalized items that are in the operational section of the budget. But I took a shot at separating those items into those like successive lists, with the thought that we would start to focus on working our way through those operational items, understanding that some of the bigger items from a project standpoint, like broadband, like future pieces of business that we've talked about with HVAC, whether HVAC or heat pump is the right word to use, but those bigger items that we don't have clarity on, that those would be handled subsequent, maybe, or a way to think about them is independent of an operational budget focus. And so that was my shot at two lists, but I'm open to the thought that you got it wrong, because I think there is some discretion in that. Right, like and by that I mean it's not black and white to me where you draw the line between those two items. But if you buy the separation, I guess that was what I was trying to lay out. Questions on that?
Yeah, I was just looking at the 911, I'm trying to think like number amounts where you would throw it in that 911 console seems like something we might consider under the capital improvement. This is my.
That's a great example of where I was struggling, to your point, because to me that I guess I was using kind of ordinary course of business, but it is capitalized in nature, which is that last column that I put on. And so, you know, from a county governmental budgeting standpoint, we do care about the 125,000 in that item. That is what we would spend next year, even though that item could be capitalized and in effect appreciated over time, you know, so.
I actually support that, the funding of that, it's just whether
It's in the right spot.
it's in the right spot.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
I told you, someone that's kept trying to separate this budget into year-over-year operational things and or one time, again, I assume that we won't need 911 councils again for 10 years or something at least, or you know, some reason, so it doesn't seem to me, but I'm open to what the rest of the committee thinks on that, but that's my take. Other than that, you know, seems like something under 30 or 40,000, that range is like, okay, we can absorb that operationally, but that seems like a bigger amount, so.
Who brought up the new consoles? That was,
Matt,
and the problems with them now is what?
I think they're at, I shouldn't spend, they're at their end of their useful life.
I mean, they are original to building over there, 2005, so they're pushing 18, 19 years old. They have functionality, I mean, they're able to raise, lower, climate control stuff. I can tell you from 2005 to 2023, dispatch operations have changed. There are more monitors, there are more computers. They have weight issues with the desks and things of that nature. So they're just 18 years have shown their time on them. And as part of this, I know he's also hoping to reorganize and make it more of a central location than broken up like it is now.
I think you said those are at end of life anyway, as far as.
They are,
support
like I
and
said, they're 18 years old, original to the LEC building.
Yeah, 24 hours a day.
If you go back, Commissioner, to, I don't know if you have the whole budget book, but it's on page 44 of the narratives at the very back of the book under supplemental information. And you can see his description of those, I'm sorry, it's in the back section, Jamie, with, it's the last tab called supplemental information. So page 44,
45, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, 44 and 45, all right.
Yeah, so I think his narrative starts on page 44 with the consoles and the dispatch center or original equipment from 2003, and he describes his ask in there.
Commissioner Lauder, you had a question?
Well, I guess my question was whether or not it could wait. I certainly support us having consoles over there that are appropriate. You know, are they really at their end of life, or are they reaching their end of life? So in other words, are they operational for one more year? Or is this something we really ought to tackle for 2024? So that was my only question was, you know, is it, are they at the end of their life just because that's the best buy date, or are they failing?
Question we could ask Matt.
Can I piggyback off that question? Just because I was wondering if, that seems like the sort of thing that there might be grant funding for out in the world.
On the other hand, I would sure hate to see in the enterprise that someone's 911 call did not go through because our consoles are not operational. People don't use those unless there's an emergency.
We could ask Matt on what the status is and how critical it will be for 2024, or could it be delayed till 2025?
Sounds like after 18 years that we delayed this quite a while.
Is there any support to go into the larger capital items discussion or not along this board?
Yeah,
You're not saying it's late, but I would rather see it out of the operational.
There's also a
I mean,
going with the original carpet.
yeah, I mean, we know things will eventually wear out and we need to replace them, but
I think I saw everybody's head shake on that, John.
Okay, so we would put that on the secondary list and follow up for additional information. And to Commissioner Kramer's comment, I think a number of those items, I'm not familiar with all of the grant opportunities. I think that there are, if you go back to our original list where all of these, most of these branch off from, you know, we had made an attempt to categorize items that there is a potential grant opportunity there for that item. And so I don't think it's your discretion, but I could see a scenario where items like that are put on a shelf and explore a grant and, you know, conditionally move forward with an ask to go look for that. from the department heads, but
This is out of pure stupidity. Is there a way, like, if we could, you know, we take care of these projects and then retroactively get a grant to cover it, so we accept the grant with still moving the project forward?
So MMRMA might be a logical source for us to go to, our risk management company. They may be, I'll have to look and see what the capacity is for those grants. It's a matching grant type of scenario, so we have to see what I believe the cap on that is 50,000. Getting that back too, but I will tell you in regards to grants, we have a plan. Sean and I have been talking about taking grants and kind of putting that under the administrator so that there's a comprehensive list of grants and that there's a tracking of timeline. And that whenever we're looking at these funding opportunities, maybe even the capital improvement plan going forward, that's one of the key questions that we'll be asking on these projects, which has not been asked in the past. So I think it's, to your point, I think it's a really valid opportunity to be looking at, when we have these funding opportunities, having looked at all of the options. So we do have a plan going forward, but.
And I know I have missed a lot of these budget meetings, so I'm assuming that entails a grant writer.
Well, our grant that we requested from the EPA Rural Readiness Grant was declined for the grant writer. However, there's another round. So Trudy and I were just talking about that the other day in terms of resubmitting that application, maybe a little bit more robust. So we are looking at that. So.
the bat phone must be working.
Oh, look at that. I think there's a text. Thank you.
So may I ask Matt my question? Matt, I know we put out the 911 consoles for 2023.
Yes.
Are they at end of life or are they at, is it the best behind end of life? Or do they make you nervous yet? Or-
No, we're at a point where they're not quite functioning where they should be. I understand that the board has a lot of budgetary decisions to make. I'm willing to sacrifice another year.
Thank you.
Our
Wow.
This will coincide with a project from maintenance, though. We would not be able to recarpet that section of the building either,
right, it's all kind of.
as long as
Okay,
we're all
the
aware of that.
functionality, they're still operating, they're just not doing, you're not dropping 911 calls or.
No. This is not the computer side of it. It's just the desks.
Okay,
They are not functioning as they should. Raising, lowering, being able to clean them properly. That's the problem.
Placing residents' safety by deferring this year.
No, this is more of a workers' ergonomic and health impact with all the dust and whatnot. So not the citizens, it's our employees.
Has everyone went over to the debt or to the center and just see what the problem is? Probably a good idea to go see Matt, and I think he'll give you his word.
Other questions for Matt?
How does that relate to the recorder? That's totally separate?
It's totally separate. That would be a computer or operational system
And that
as
one's
opposed to
end
the
of life.
furniture.
So that one is.
That one is end of life.
Thank you, Matt.
No problem.
That helps.
Thank you, Matt.
Before, I messed up on the agenda and I skipped commissioner comments. And I don't know if anybody had commissioner comments to make prior to the meeting. I'm sorry about that.
we're not shy, I think we would have made them.
Yeah, this is.
Well, I'll make one. And the reason I was disorganized is I'm so pleased with the work that Sean has done with this work and yet as recently as just this morning, he was kind of blindsided with the criticism of how we're proceeding from a staff member. And I don't want to get into the weeds on that, but it's not helpful if people are outside of this process, singling out individual board members for individual staff and critiquing our budget process. I don't think that helps, and I think everybody in this organization has a responsibility to function in a professional manner and directly. And I don't want to hear when I come to a meeting at 5 to 9 as board chair, that another board member has heard that we're doing it all wrong from a staff person that could come to me. So that's my commissioner comment, and we can talk more about that if we want to, but I think we all have as board members a responsibility. If somebody comes to us and says, have you talked to? And I don't know that we want to say any more about it, but go ahead.
Well, my only comment is that sometimes we, during a meeting, somebody can tell we really aren't quite getting what they're saying, or we don't know how to say it exactly. Sometimes clarification happens outside of the meetings, because you'll ask a question and it's like, I think what you're really asking is this, and so I don't think it's really necessarily, I don't see it as criticism or interruption or that. I see it more as to make sure that I understand it correctly, or that Jamie understands it correctly, or that Jim understands it correctly. Because sometimes this is convoluted and this is complex. And I don't know if sometimes we really understand all of the, I'm gonna just say catchphrases, even though they're not really catchphrases. But, yeah, exactly. So.
I wasn't talking about a board member raising a concern.
Oh, no, I understand.
Okay.
You know, I had the sheriff come up to me afterwards and say, well, you asked about this, but really you should have been asking this, because this is the implication. I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. You know, so I appreciate that, is all I'm saying.
Any other commissioner comments?
No, well, yes, I just would start by asking all my fellow commissioners, as we look at our budget and our massive capital expenditures coming up, to act fiscally responsible. We go with fiduciary duty to the counties, to the citizens of this county, to act responsibly with tax dollars. And there's a lot of things on this list that are, all justified by the individual and have merit by the people that want them. But we just cannot fund them all. So there's gonna have to be some hard decisions made. And so I would just ask, when you look at things, in my mind, there's a very limited list of things on this. So like, wish list is not the right word, it's department request, but there's a limited amount of things that we can actually fund. And I would hope that they'll look at this budget that way.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comment?
I would like to thank Mr. Cohen for the information and sheets he's given us. They've been very helpful. As far as someone saying we're doing it all wrong, I'm not sure that ever is relevant. Wrong according to what? So I would hope that we would not take that kind of, I agree, Commissioner Wessel, that's not helpful. We are a pretty darn new group. And if we figure out a way to do it that works for us, and perhaps it's a little different, that's okay. Things don't always have to be the same to be correct.
Thank you.
So thank you, Mr. Cohen.
This time, are we done with commissioner comment? This time, I think we have Point on the line. And again, we heard from them yesterday. Our consultant called us up and got Point people on the line, and we thought that this board of commissioners needed to hear their update. So Patricia's here and Chris Shearer's here. And Chris, are you going to start it out?
Certainly. I just want to basically do the introductions. Just as everybody knows, we've got an enormous project underway trying to get fiber optic broadband throughout the 7 eastern townships right now, and then we're also still working on plans for the western township. It's a huge challenge. There's a lot of things that we have to overcome. And Point Broadband is, they have done a great job getting as far as they've gotten, but they do have some challenges, and they're here to address those with the board today, and just talk about where we're at and what it's going to take to get things finished up. So, Dan Sullivan and Dave Ficken, they're online. The new face we have here is Todd Holt. He's the CEO for Point Broadband. And I'm glad that he's here to deliver this message to the board in person and to be able to answer any questions. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Todd. Thank you for being here, Todd.
Yeah, my pleasure, Chris. Thank you. And we appreciate the opportunity to meet with the county and certainly answer any questions that you may have about the project. Before we just take the questions, we'll provide an overview of where we are. And we're super excited about the project and bringing fiber to the community. You may know, you may not know, but the vision of our company, the day we were founded, we established a vision before we ever started operations. And the vision of our company is to improve lives with fiber broadband. And the way we are successful fulfilling our vision is we focused on small town USA and rural America, because that's where, residential consumers and small businesses and even large businesses need better broadband. And there's nothing better than fiber when it comes to broadband. So that niche that we focus on has served us very well. And we've been blessed to be a successful company, over the years that we've been operating. And our team has been doing broadband for about 25 years. So we're experienced in this. Now, as far as the Leelanau project specifically is, we've built, close to 1,500 addresses thus far. And the good part of that is our customer take rate is very, very healthy. So we are excited about that. What it means to us is we are fulfilling our vision of improving a lot of lives with fiber broadband, whether it's kids that want to homeschool or adults that want to work from home or, do telemedicine or stream video. I mean, there's, y'all probably know as well as I do, if not better than I do, about, what better broadband can mean. So that's the real exciting good part, of the early phase of this project. The challenging part that Chris is talking about and that we're dealing with as a company is the cost overruns that we've encountered in the early part of the build. And, I'm sure folks are familiar with, all of the inflation and the supply chain and, the issues that companies deal with. That's on us to manage. That's absolutely on us to manage, and we got to figure that out. And that's what we're in the process of doing after seeing the early cost returns on, the fiber build. So we have no intentions to walk away from the project. We've never walked away from a partnership and don't intend to walk away from this one, but we do need to pause for a week or two and let our engineers, our fiber infrastructure construction team, in our finance department, go figure some things out. So, we have an economically feasible project and not an economically, loser project. So that's really, of course, we want to answer all the questions you have, but that's really our message today is we'd like to take a week or two. It's the top priority for our business right now. And we operate and we build a lot of fiber in 10 different states, but this Leelanau project is the #1 priority in our business right now. And we need at least a week, maybe 10 days to 2 weeks to have a concrete plan to share with you on how we proceed and get this done. And some of that plan, in fact, most of that plan is on us and things that we can control. But there's some parts of what we're working on that we just need help with. And in the early stages of planning, it was articulated that the help was there, whether it's permitting, through county resources, or Cherryland, working with us on the pole attachments and the pole rental, or the tribal fiber assets, which I heard yesterday, there's been a very positive development in potentially, Point Broadband being able to utilize some of the fiber that the tribal group has that initially, was a big plus for this project. So all of those things, our team is working on as we speak, and we would just like, a week to 2 weeks to go put our final plans together and share them with the county. So I apologize for being, long-winded. Thank you for listening, but we'll be glad to address any comments or questions that you have about this.
Commissioner Lautner.
Yes, thank you for that. I certainly understand your need to try to get all of your ducks in a row. But we've also got winter up here coming pretty darn soon. So have you installed fiber in the frozen tundra? We actually don't have much frozen ground, fortunately, if we get enough snow. Will you be able to continue through the winter, or will you be taking a pause during the winter months?
Yeah, that all depends on, great question, by the way. We've been building fiber in Michigan for 5 years, I believe, and it all depends on how harsh the winter is and how frozen the tundra is. We've typically, up the last few years, a little bit further south than Leelanau, we've not had to completely stop, fiber builds. It's not as efficient. It doesn't move as fast, dealing with the frozen ground or semi-frozen ground. But typically, unless it's just a really harsh winter, work can be done. But we have also not built fiber as far north as Leelanau is. So this may be a different environment for us. And it's just too soon to tell, based on what the winter elements really are. But believe me, we are as motivated as the community, as all of the Leelanau residents that are going to get this better fiber. We're as committed and we're as motivated, if not more, to get this done sooner rather than later. But we need to balance out the weather. We need to balance out the economics of the build. There's other elements that our team is working on right now that will solidify, our plan going forward. And once that's done, we'd love to get, either back on the screen, or we'd love to come visit, the board in person and go through, what our plan is to get this finished. That's our goal is to take a week or two and get a concrete plan and come sit down with you in person or get on the screen again and communicate that plan to you and hopefully get your buy-in with us on this partnership.
So we're tabling it for 2 weeks.
Yes, sir. That's our request. Yes, sir.
That was a little bit different than I think we heard David, Chris, Dan yesterday. I thought we were talking about maybe putting it on hold for a few months. No?
Well, the plan over the 2 weeks will dictate whether that's part of the plan or not. The answer is we will know the answers to all of those questions in a week or two. How much we think we can build in the winter, what time frame, to finish the entire project. All of that is being worked through the construction in the engineering group, and of course the finance group is doing some work too, but this is mostly an exercise with our construction and engineering teams, and we'll be in a position to answer that question better, in a week or two.
You mentioned the tribal fiber. Chris, could you give us, since Todd's mentioned it, give us a quick update on a possible development there?
The only thing that we've gotten so far, Commissioner Wessel, is we are working on scheduling a call with the Mr. Petoskey early next week. And I'm working on coordinating with David Ficken on the schedule to do that. At this point, we don't have any other information.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
So to clarify, you say that you need to take a week or two to come up with an assessment. How about the people who know there's fiber laid to past their houses, and they're just waiting, and I'm not going to get the verbiage right. They're waiting for the cabinet or whatever to be turned on. Is there a delay there as well? Or can you turn those people on? They're very excited.
Yeah, and we're excited to get them the service too. We do have at least one cabinet I'm aware of that's in process. There's actually two cabinets in process. One cabinet, we've got to do some splicing to get the last 30 addresses on that cabinet done. That is being done. The cabinet that I think you're talking about is a cabinet that is partially completed. And yes, we're going to go ahead and hustle up and get that cabinet completed so we can get those addresses hooked up, or at least the folks that want us to hook them up, hooked up on those addresses too. Now, if there's other, and this may be, Dan, where you can help, or we can get Tom on the horn to help us, but if there's other just fiber that's not associated with a cabinet that's far off from where we're building, I can't speak to that, but there are two cabinets that are partially completed that we are hustling to get those done as quickly as we can so we can hook up those customers that are, ready to be hooked up here in a quick way. So we're not stopping all construction right now. We're pausing any new cabinet expansion, and we're going to get these existing cabinets finished.
Those
And
people.
if you send me some addresses, like if you had specific addresses that you would send over, I could give you a very specific, or we could give you a very specific answer of yes, we should be in a position to install that address on this date. If you had any specific addresses to share.
Should I send them to Boston? Boston Nordic?
No, I would send them to Dan. I would, if you can, you're welcome to send them directly to me, Dan, and David. But if you get them to me, Dan, or David, we'll get you an answer promptly.
I'll send them to Chris and he can send them to you guys.
Okay, and that'll work too. We'll get you a prompt answer working through Chris as well. But that's a great question.
I have his email address. That
it's a great question. It's a fair question, and I think it just demonstrates, we're motivated to get this stuff done too. I believe we got 10 more cabinets to build, and that's what we're trying to figure out is those 10 more cabinets and how we can best get those built to where everybody wins. The community wins, all the residents win, and we're trying to get a win for Point Broadband too. And we're just working hard to make sure it's a win-win-win type of scenario.
just so you know, I have people call me up and say, I see them. Are they coming?
Yeah. That's why I say we're blessed. I mean, we're blessed to be in this space. We have to execute and we have to, be good at what we do, but we are very fortunate to be in the fiber broadband space because so many places in America needs it, and we're the folks who can bring it to them. So we're just trying the best we can to do it, to do it right. And we apologize, for this situation we're in, but we need to be a disciplined operator, and that's what we're trying to do is balance things out and just get it done right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I understand a operational pause to, gather where you're at and see a path forward. But I'm reading between the lines here, listening between the lines, I guess, and I'm going to make the assumption that a deal is a deal. And part of this discussion won't be coming back to this board asking for more funds.
I'm sorry, the last part of that, asking for more, did you say more money or more months?
Yeah, more money, more funds, whatever, yes. So I assume that's not part of your discussions.
That's not been part of our discussions, and we're just we're transparent. Sometimes that harms us, but that has served us really good over the last 25 years. So we're very transparent, and we'll tell you that if you'll give us a week or two to come back, we're just going to lay it on the table, what it is, how long it's going to take, what the economics are. I'd prefer just to say, please give us a week or two to go do some work that's required here. And then I think we can have just a more complete, concrete, strategy and plan that we'll propose. But we're motivated. I mean, this would probably be a different discussion. If our take rates weren't so healthy, we may be wiggling and squirming in our seats. But we're excited about this. I mean, seeing the take rate, seeing our ability to improve lives. I mean, we're excited about this. We want to take this short pause and find a way that, we're going to be able to improve a bunch of lives, and it also, be a win for Point Broadband. That's, it's important for us to continue to be the vibrant, growing, successful company that we are. It's important for us to do good projects, and we're trying to figure out with these cost overruns, how to make this a good economic project. It's going to be a good project, for the people who get the fiber, no doubt about that, but we want it to be a good project for us too, and we're working hard, so we can balance that out.
Just if I may, a clarification for Commissioner Algair's question. Cabinets 5 and 8, we have a public map, Todd, that they can see the actual cabinet boundaries. And so, Gwen, what you're looking at is cabinet 5 and cabinet 8 are the ones that they're working on trying to get finished up. So obviously, if you send the addresses, we'll check them specifically. But if you look at the public map, that's the areas that they're focused on right now, getting those wrapped up and activated.
Commissioner Russ.
Yeah, to be honest, you're just making me very nervous. You're making me very nervous, and I don't know. I mean, we don't have much information for me to base that on, but could you just say a little bit more? Is it staffing issues? Is it supply chain? You're trying to make your business work is not something I feel like we need to deal with. I mean, we can put a pause on it, but I don't think the contract is gonna change, right? I mean, so I guess I'm feeling nervous, and I don't know what to do with this information that you're giving us.
Yeah, and I apologize for being repetitive. It's a fair question. I certainly understand your question. It's a fair question. I think if we can get a week, maybe 2 weeks, I think hopefully we can alleviate, the anxiety and nervousness. I just, we're in the process of figuring this out now, but I can say, there will be an ask, there will be, at least, what I was told was that there were some commitments made on permitting, and we need, that's not the biggest deal out of this whole thing. So I don't want to, overemphasize that, but we need the county to do some things to help us too that haven't been done. And that permitting, and the delay in the permitting, that cost us money. And that's part of it. That's not the biggest part of it, but that's part of us getting our ducks in a row, is getting that permitting done. And I don't know if we've got anybody that can help us with cherry land poles, but that's part of it. But most of it is on us, and most of it is on our engineering design that we're going back through and making sure it's done the right way and the most efficient way. And it's just going to take a few days to get that done. So I hate to hear that, there's anxiety and nervousness. At the same time, based on this conversation, I understand, why there's nervousness and anxiety. And I think that's fair. And, I apologize that we're having to experience this right now. I wanted to make sure I was here to speak with y'all this morning and answer your questions. But, part of what I'm here to say is, please give us a week or two. And I think we can have a fully concrete, answer every question with a lot of detail, type of a discussion.
Commissioner Kramer.
You mentioned permitting and some of the things that the county, you're looking for deliverables. Do we have a specific list of deliverables for the county?
I'm getting out over my skis trying to answer that question. David or Dan, I don't know if y'all have any, detailed list of the permitting. I think Cosette, our vice president of engineering is a lady named Cosette. I would imagine she does. So, but great question. And I love that question. And now we should go deliver to the county. We should go deliver our wait list on that permitting activity. So Dan or David, if y'all have it and can send it like right now, please do. If the answer is Cosette's got it, let's go get it from Cosette and provide it to the county later today through Chris. We can send it to Chris and get to the county. Let's get that done.
What I can jump in there, and at this point, for the work that we have at hand, that we're expecting to these guys to work on, we do have the permits all from the county in hand. There are still a couple of areas that weren't going to be in this year's schedule that are not in their hands yet, but they're not part of, like I said, they weren't part of what the initial plan was for what we were planning on seeing done this year.
Okay. Yeah. And this is, maybe internally we need to, Chris, have you in more of the discussions with me. I was told there was this August deadline for a bunch of permitting activity that just didn't get done and created a slow start, which created, higher cost, which was part of putting us in this position. So, y'all correct me if I say something wrong, because I'm not as close to it as some of you are on the point side of things. But I was told, we missed a lot of permitting activity that was due in August, and it has slowed us down and cost us more money because of that. And if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong, and please say so.
There's been some challenges with the permitting. I actually, and it has been on both sides, but I believe we are, for what we had on the schedule this year, we are past that at this point relative to the county. I'm not talking about Cherryland. I don't know if there's anything pending there. I don't see that part of it, but the County Road Commission's perspective and what we've needed for this year's schedule, I believe everybody is caught up on that, and that's all in your hands.
Yeah, just to echo, I think everybody's correct. There were some delays that did slow us down, did cost us a little bit of money. We do have the permits we need for the work in front of us right now. I think from Todd's perspective, our ask is going to be when we gear back up as we go through the winter, is those delays cost us money, and if we can get ahead of that, especially during the winter, that'll help us with having to spend money that we don't need to spend for the remainder of the project.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dan and Chris, for clarifying that. I appreciate it.
I do want to ask a question that I'm hearing from the board that I'm not sure is clearly been addressed yet, and that's the cost issue. Through all of this, I want to hear that Point Broadband is not planning on coming back and asking the county for any additional funding. That we understand trying to realign construction and the cost overruns that could be happening and what you can do from an engineering standpoint to help mitigate that a little bit. But at this point, we do have an agreement for a set amount of funding. You do have some additional funding coming in, and we just want to know, I think the board needs to know that the funding part of it, the cost part of it, is not going to be a burden on them.
Yeah, if you want me to say today, we're not going to come back and ask for the county for any more funding, I will tell you that we will not ask the county for any more funding if that's how you want the discussion to proceed. You've got my commitment. We will not ask for another red penny of funding. Okay. But if we have a week or two, I can give you a full detailed plan and strategy. But if you are saying, don't come back with a plan or strategy where you ask for any more money, I've received that message, and we will not come back, with a strategy that asks for more money. So I can't We need a week. We need a week or two to really
And
give everybody.
You're being recorded too.
I assumed I was. I assumed I was. And, that's fine. And that's dandy. I'm recorded a lot. CEOs get recorded a lot, so we assume we're always being recorded, but we will not come back and ask for a penny from the county.
Okay, thank you. Doug?
So, yeah, I think that clarifies our question to a certain extent. You're being very harsh in your words, even from the county. I don't know if that means you'll be asking for additional connect fees from, there's lots of other spots you can get some money from that people have an agreement to understanding going in. So I'm not sure you fully answered the question, but you've, is that part of how you would look for financing your further problems? So I've spent a lot of my life in contracts. As far as the county not fulfilling something it's, supposed to have done, any two-party contract, you have a duty to let us know if we're not doing something we should and give us a chance to correct it, rather than just letting the problem proceed and charging for us. So the world just doesn't work that way. So I guess I have two questions. A, it sounds like you're not asking us for more money. Who are you going to ask for more money? That would be my next question.
Yeah, just too early to say if we'll be asking anybody for more money. And if we do, it's too early to say who we would be asking for more money. So that's what we need, a week or two to do our work, but cannot answer those questions right now because I don't know the answers.
Commissioner Lauder.
Right.
Yes, thank you. I have two questions, maybe more. The permitting, is that through the road commission?
Yes,
Is it road commission permitting?
yes.
Okay, so we could possibly help you there with the conversation, if that's helpful. I have a question. What sort of help do you need from Cherryland Electric? We already have a great pool attachment rate. I don't think we're going to be able to beat that. I know that we're doing some pole replacements where it's necessary because we don't want to hang this stuff on old poles, such as Spectrum has done in the past or Charter and pulled those old poles over. So I'm a little concerned about, do you think they're not replacing poles quick enough? What help do you need?
Dan, will you or David,
Yeah.
I think you can better articulate the issue with Cherryland poles and make ready and pole attachments better than I can. Would you please address that?
Yeah, and first of all, we've got a great relationship with Cherryland, and I don't want this to come across as we're blaming them. It's more of an expectation that we had in the front end 2 years ago conversation with Cherryland in terms of what would be available. And as the time got lengthened, Cherryland is executing on some initiatives that are negatively impacting our cost structure. And I just think we need to be working closely with them so we understand better some of the projects, the pole replacement projects, some of the things that need to now go underground, so that we know the impact of this, where we had certain expectations up front, things changed over the course of time. And we just need to, understand better what's the next year gonna look like, so we can bake that into our costs.
Yeah, and I want to echo that too. I want to echo that. Let me echo that too. I mean, Cherryland's been a great partner. They were at the table from the very beginning. We have an arrangement with them to support this project, support some of the needs that they have as an organization, to be a better power company for you all. The partnership to provide broadband and fiber for them in this project is a win-win there as well. So yeah, things happen and things have happened, and we just need, to Dan's point, stay ahead of it and project out. Okay, get on a forecast basis. This is where we're going to be in the next 90 days, the next 180 days. What's the situation with those poles, so that we know if there's any surprises, or if they're going to take that pole line down and go underground, then we've got to go underground. So things of that nature just need to be, ironed out in ahead of time, in a partnership. And we got a great relationship with them, and they're great partners.
Yeah, and look, guys, in the whole spirit of transparency, say it the way you say it to me. The initial engineering included us getting on Cherryland poles, and now there's a question whether we're going to be able to get on those poles. If we don't get on those poles, it's more expensive. So, say it like you say it to me, so everybody, has the same understanding. They're great. We have a great relationship, a great partnership. But the fact is, our engineering included us getting on those poles. And at least what I've been told is there's a question whether we're going to be able to get on those poles or not. So please, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but, I don't like going into conversations and, hearing different stories. Is that what we're saying?
Because they're gonna wanna go underground instead. What they're doing is not removing poles above ground, in some places they're going underground instead.
That's right.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay, so, well, just to be clear, so the pole attachment rate was how much?
0.
And what was consumer's pole attachment rate?
Don't know.
$150 pole. Okay.
Well, I'm encouraged about the possibility for the tribal fiber, and that sounds like it would be a good opportunity, and I was pleased when they reached out yesterday. If I can be a part of that meeting, I might be helpful, Chris.
You're included in it. I'm just trying to get, David, you need to send me those dates this morning if possible, and we'll get it up today yet, Ty, yeah.
Okay, good.
Does that present a possible cost savings for Point, the tribal fiber connection?
Yes, sir. That would be, if we can negotiate a good arrangement to ride that fiber, that would be a big win for us.
Yeah, that has been a factor in this build, and if Point could utilize that fiber, that would put them quite a ways north in the county where they are not at the moment. And that's always been a big topic amongst their engineering folks and myself to be able to do that. So this is certainly a good opportunity that we definitely will pursue.
Yeah, it actually helps both elements. It helps the time element and it helps the cost element. So it's important because it actually helps both.
Yep.
And I understand that you got a Robin grant as well. That should be helping as well with cost, shouldn't it?
It does, yeah. It helps. Now the Robin grant is not all the same area. Some of the Robin grant is an area south of where we're building the Leelanau County, but it does help, yes.
So some cost overruns should be covered with that.
Yes and no. From the initial engineering, the answer is yes, but we had built that Robin. We've been in discussions with the state on the Robin for quite some time, so that has been baked in for quite some time. So it's a little bit of a yes and no. From the very, very initial estimates, it's a yes. From the more recent estimates, it's a no.
I'm just have a question. When I get calls from constituents that are like on the cusp of getting service, when you put a pause on this project, is that everything from lane line to hooking up people that are ready to go?
No, ma'am, it's not everything. For when Gwen had asked a really good question earlier about some fiber that's already, past some addresses, we're going to go ahead and finish that work and install those customers. But we call it cabinet. So any expansion beyond where we've already laid fiber, the distribution fiber, we'll be pausing for a week or two on that expansion of the distribution fiber. But where we already have distribution fiber laid, we're going to go ahead and hook up those addresses where that fiber is already in place.
Thank you. Yes, Doug.
One final comment, I guess, for this board, not for them, but because time is of the essence here, winter's coming, is it a good idea to apprise our council of this situation as far as what our rights and responsibilities are and have them available when we hear this? I mean, because normally our process would be to hear this, we don't know what to do, we send it to council, they look it over, they get back to us in a couple of weeks. I assume we don't want to delay this project any longer than it has to, because that was money spent, but it's I'm not saying that as a direction, I'm just asking what the board feels about that.
Well, I'm anticipating in 2 weeks that Todd and Dan and David are going to be back with us and give us all sorts of good news. And tell us we're even ahead of schedule.
The good news part, hopefully that's reality. The ahead of schedule part, I don't know if we can sign up for that. Because we're already behind schedule. So but I love the optimism and I'm optimistic too. You know, we got a lot of good, smart people over here. They're passionate about our vision of improving lives, you know, with the fiber, and we're working hard, you know, to move forward as fast as possible.
Any last questions for them?
I have just one last comment. Ultimately, this is going to boil down to reliability, which is very, very, very important. So oftentimes, depending on the area, we get much better reliability going underground, and that's going to help point in the future as well. So you will be hearing from Sherilyn.
Thank you very much for adjusting your schedule so quickly and being with us today. And Chris, reach out to us when it's time for the next update.
You'll be my first call, Ty.
Patricia, Todd,
Thank you,
Dan,
guys.
David, Chris, thank you.
Yep. Thank y'all. Y'all have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
A couple minute break here and
Yeah, I need to, southern words, I need to chew on this a little bit. People can cheat around.
I am muted on my end. I can't hear.
When they mute during the breaks. They will reactivate when the break's over.
Huh, how come?
So I just turned the microphone off, turn the microphones back on.
Thank you.
Can you hear okay now?
Thank you.
But we're not back officially yet, so.
Gwen, is that your actual background, or is that one of those you pasted that picture behind you in your team viewer?
She likes to sit in a ravine for her.
Is that how you're getting broadband access where you're sitting?
That is a photo from one of our favorite places, Zion, right now in Vermont.
Oh.
Okay.
And
I didn't comment.
Oh, no, you do,
Yeah, because
I'm wondering, give me your grief.
It kind of looks like you're sitting in the river,
I have to
in the
leave.
bottom of that canyon right now. I assume you're not.
I wish I was.
Are your feet
I wish I
wet?
was. I wish I could show you a picture of what I look at from our room. But Jamie's got to teach me how to change my background. I don't know how to do it.
We'll get you, we'll get you.
I have no idea how I got this. I don't know how to change it.
I really think it's hilarious that I'm the tech person here. Oh, I know you have some vodka.
It's called
All right. We always have one of those in there.
We always go to the teenagers.
You changed to like balls. I can't.
Okay, let's begin. We're back. Thank you. We're planning on going until about 11:30 or so, and then at least one of you have a commitment. You're on, Sean.
So I may have jumped in too far in that first, as we started, and so let me back up one step to make sure that I'm going in an appropriate direction. I appreciate your comments, Commissioner Wessel. It's been a personally challenging too. I think that I have done what I thought was taken the best path with prior direction, that, you know, there are paths that have been blazed here in the past in terms of how to go through the formation of and get to an adopted budget. Probably learned some things along the path, but I do want to just pause for a minute to Commissioner Wessel's comment. I think in the last 24 hours, it's been suggested to me that we haven't spent sufficient time going through line item detail. It's been suggested to me that we haven't looked at allocation of funds, allocations. And if you think about allocations, it's the big 4 or 5 things that we always come back to around IT and telephone and copy and motor pool. And I've been directing attention to a line item that is just a factual line item in that originally proposed budget, that is the $965,150 that I've put on the top of every page since sometime in June, that is intended to focus our attention on what we would be drawing down in the general fund, and then with what's in the budget today. And then I follow or try to follow every one of those comments with, remember the things from our own methodology that are not in there. There's not grant revenue. We've made assumptions about contingency funding, about MERS funding. We know that historically the revenue item has been variable, and we could argue how predictable. And the reason that we put in what we have put in historically. And I think that oddly to me, on October 18th, after months and months of this, we're questioning that. But I do want to just take a pause at the path and where we're at, because my intention is to help provide information to you as the decision makers for Leelanau County. And I have attempted through getting departments in to talk about things, to segregate out things like staffing decisions. I think I've gotten great guidance to pull apart projects and operating budgets. And I think that is the right path. But as we're getting closer to, some decision times, I am open to, if I have not led us appropriately through that, or if you feel underinformed or would like to spend time, my intention here has never been to push anything through as much as answer questions. I've tried to tee up in my mind, and again, with the experience I have, which is not extensive in Leelanau County, to get the appropriate material items out on the table to discuss. And I feel personally, I felt pretty good about what, we've covered. But that said, I think what I'd ask is if there are other items, even though I was going to kind of close, it's in the materials, a path home to an adopted budget and what that might look like, proposed timeline. I guess I just, at some point, look for your feedback. If you feel confused, uninformed, need more information, need more time, I'm happy to go there. Commissioner Kramer.
I completely understand. I have not been to a lot of these budget meetings. However, I feel this is a shared responsibility, and I think that you've been doing a wonderful job bringing us from what we need from you. And we take our part in that. So whatever was said, I want you to throw it out the window.
Okay. I still think there's time to, I appreciate that.
Yes.
I'm honestly looking for if you feel like there are blind spots after today, please let me know. And I'm happy to, I feel like my job is to lead the effort to get that information to you. And so.
This is a dialogue. And
yeah.
I surely, I don't think that you're going to have everything. This is a lot, and it's very comprehensive, and I appreciate it.
All right. So with that, let me take one more just grounding on what I have in those sheets in front of you. I pulled apart, like as I said, what is in yellow are items where I've heard unscientifically that there seems to be a need for more dialogue. And so I've highlighted things where I'm honestly think that I would love dialogue before we got to there's no decisions made. This list is intended, unless I messed up, to have not dropped any items over the course of the last several months. And so to the question of, is it whole and complete? It's in a couple of parts now, and there's things in different lines, and I can help with the geography. But my intention is everything's on here. Nothing's been taken off. There's been no decisions made. I'm simply highlighting in yellow where I've heard questions that seem to be that would lead us to say, maybe there's more dialogue needed before you kind of get to a point where we say, okay, seriously, thumbs up, thumbs down. So with that, that is what is there, but I'm happy to take your, I don't know if you have thoughts, Ty, whether we want to go through line by line or.
Let's have people react to what you've said, starting with Doug.
I just have a question to understand the methodology on this sheet, the stuff that isn't in yellow.
Yeah. As
Solid.
well, I've heard on those, it seems like there's been a consensus in our discussion and the debate or discussion has led to, I think you know where you'd be on it. So I didn't highlight it. All of these though, from a process or procedure, I think are on the table, open for discussion. We haven't taken any.
Right, and I'm not taking, this is not a done deal, we figured out, but when we have been done with discussion, does that mean the assessment is we liked it or did not like it?
I believe on those items, there has been consensus that you liked it.
Okay, that's what I was trying to, okay, that's what I was just trying to understand the difference between when we're looking at, now, again, it's up to you, we make these decisions, but
Right.
I'm just trying to understand the sheet I'm looking at. So,
Yep. In the yellow ones, there's been less clarity on whether there was a consensus.
And I heard this morning from Melinda that those, I think it's the yellow ones, we really need to go on public record if we have disagreement with those so that it's a part of our public meeting. So anything's not highlighted through our meetings, you've sensed that we've had support. We could pull any of those off we wanted to, but we ought to start talking about the yellow ones.
That was my intention, to focus a discussion. But again, none of the white ones, if there's been a change, I mean, it happened this morning with Matt. That one I had felt like was solid, but open to.
Commissioner Lautner and then Commissioner Allgaier.
I just wanted to understand exactly what you're saying. I think, thank you very much, Ty. I just thought it was really important because everything that we do has to be out in the public, and the public needs to know how I'm going on each of these issues individually, right on down the line. So we can say yay to a block of these if they're, so what you're saying is if they're not highlighted, are we okay to leave those on there?
Is there anyone who?
Yeah, do we object to any of them? So
Yes. Yes. I think we need to discuss some of that.
Okay, then ignore, what I'd suggest is I retract my highlighting. Let's go line by line and discuss each item.
Does Gwen have the copy that we have highlighted in front of you?
Yes, and I have a question.
Okay, Gwen, you're up.
I do not see the discussion of the funding for District 6 and 7 on here.
So
we agreed to last week to put that to along with the other capital type budgets. That was pretty much unanimous.
What?
Agreement here.
What?
We had decided that we were going to move forward with an operational budget, which just keeps the lights on and keeps the thing running, and that we would address HVAC, broadband, and these other larger capital items after this was done.
And
So-
that is on this third page of Sean's handout today.
But if we're gonna change that tack, then everything changes dramatically what we're doing today, because you gotta add in HVAC and all those things in today's discussion, so we either have to go one direction or another, and I thought.
I think we were gonna stick with the first two pages, the operational.
That was my understanding.
Oh, you know what,
So-
you guys, mine's online and I was just looking at the yellow pages. So yes, you're right.
We were all surprised that you even brought up fiber.
Yes.
I've been holding it back, guys. I've been waiting for that moment. You're really, really lucky. But don't worry.
Okay,
So.
so are we going line by line?
is that,
Okay.
So I just have a comment before we start that. I know we don't have a choice line by line, but when that is all done, I can't tell you that a yes on one of those is my yes. Because I might think one is important, and then if you add 10 other things and we end up way overspending, then I'm just a no on everything. So I don't care how we proceed, but I want that to be clear. I might support a position. I mean, the way I just, while I'm here, we are starting out anticipating 900 and some thousand in revenue that we don't know for sure we have. Now, it's likely it's gonna end up there because it has in the past. But after that, the only things that I'm comfortable as a total funding is if I look at like grant money, which we almost always get. That's reasonable to spend some of that. There's also some of that in the, we expect, have a pretty good expectation of some range of revenue from the child court, the state changing the funding. There is some revenue there. If at any point what we do adds up to more than that, then I'm just a no on everything. So that's just my position. Other commissioners do they want, but unless we, I mean, I think first, if we're going to yeses and nos, we have to have some idea of what we're willing to spend. Because otherwise otherwise we're not making decisions. We're actually just saying yes, yes, yes. So I guess I would ask this board, is there any consensus on, if you're looking through these things? I mean, if I add all of them up and I look at there is a total 1.7 million, which, you know, part of that is 965. So that's $725,000 more than the current budget. We're starting into that, and we don't know where that's coming from. I don't know how we even do this productively. I'd be more comfortable. We said, okay, based on those revenue things, these things we're gonna pick. So in our head, we're making choices. You say, you know, maybe there's 200 and some, you know, safe on the childcare thing, and there's a couple hundred, you know, 150 or so safe on the grant. So you have 300 or 350 that you could spend that we could be reasonably assured keeps us within our budget based on revenues that we know are there but are not yet realized. If we don't start there, I don't know how we get to an end, because we're just so we go through and say, oh, yeses and no, that, or we can do it in cycles, I guess. I'm okay either option, but so I mean, if we go through and we just start cutting out things afterwards, what I'm saying, I guess, is our yeses, Linda, are you anywhere with me on this? I mean, if you.
Yeah, I absolutely get this, because while we've just said, okay, we asked our 911, head of our 911 emergency services to say, hey, can you wait on something as important as consoles? And then down here we have, merit increase for employees. I mean, I think that would be an absolutely ludicrous thing to do, considering that we're saying to the public, well, we're gonna wait on these consoles, but we're gonna get,
So just for form, it
so
explains,
things do kind of weigh one on the
if
other.
we go through this and any one commissioner is uncomfortable with the total, then we do it again.
Mhm.
Is that, because I mean, I guess I want to say, when you say we're on record,
Right,
if I say a yes, that yes is not a full, no matter what else happens, yes, it's a yes that's within.
For this round.
it's a
this
draft.
round. So I just want to make sure we're all
Yep,
clear on how we're doing
I
this.
agree. I agree.
That's okay.
So if we go
Could we just-
line by line, if there's full consensus that it ought to be eliminated, then we shorten the list.
Yeah.
Right.
And when we get a list that at least some commissioners care about, then we begin to.
Then if it adds up to more than uncomfortable spending, then,
Right.
then we, or someone else, any one commissioner can say, no, we need to look at that list again, or if they get overridden, then I guess that's the way it is. But I guess my comfortability is having a yes on a thing that's absolute, that isn't related to all the other yeses that somebody else in here may not want. So is that a fair way? I just make sure we're all on.
Jamie?
I'm with Doug. I think that's a fair and prudent way to do things, and I think, we all need to realize it's more of a workshop until we get those actual line items that are cemented.
Great, clear list.
And I suspect there's going to be several items that we all agree are not on this year's list. And then we'll generate another list. So my assumption is that, Sean, you ought to lead us through each one, and I just think it might be helpful when we get to each one is hear from each person, kind of not a long narrative, but up or down. Does that make sense?
Sure.
And let me just make sure there's clarity on one item, well, maybe two. So to your point on, I keep looking just as a gauge, you know, you referenced there, where 1,000,007 would be the number. If I stuck all of these items into this budget, the number's gonna come out something like 1,000,007, say. Today, this morning, we took 125 off the page, so maybe it's more like 1,005,500. The one other item in here you mentioned, Commissioner Rex wrote, was with childcare. Let me just spend 1 second on what I'm showing in there is a $300,000 opportunity. And that opportunity is made up of, in this original budget, there were revenue items that were not included. So in effect, we used the same methodology where we looked at prior year, kind of tried to keep it consistent prior to the department weighing in on that. Since that point in time, the state budget cycle occurs ahead of ours because of the fiscal year. And so with that budget, step one was to bring the child care Fund 292 up to what we submitted as a state budget. And that came through the regular Board of Commissioners meetings a month or so ago. The second item that I was asked to do in there, I think, was outside of that budget is the state increasing the funding level from 50% to 75% for that. Those two items would, if I am doing my math right, as I would recast this budget, would bring $300,000 of, in effect, additional revenues in that would reduce that position. So in effect, that's already there, to your point, Commissioner Rex wrote.
That's already in
Just
the 1.7 total.
correct. Thank you. Better said.
On the far right thing, that's already been factored in.
Correct.
So,
Yep. Okay.
Point, so
So
I have a question there because I believe I heard, and I'm not sure if it was from Cameron, that the intention of the state was not necessarily to reduce the funding. On the other hand, did he also say that what they were going to get covered their costs? So I guess I'd like clarification from him that they are going to be able to cover their programs if we just take that money.
I think the assessment, he could speak to it, that the spend part of the budget equals his budget ask for the year, already in the budget. All this does is the state's giving us more money back to basically to reimburse us. Thank you for the word, for the things they're doing, but taking that 300 doesn't change his spend. Now, it doesn't give them more spend.
Right.
That's the point,
Oh.
that's the question.
So one of the things I think we should be aware of is if the state is going to be giving them more funding next year, they may have a bigger ask, and we may have to share some of that. Because the object is to make sure that our kids are served and our families are served. So I'm glad to hear for this year, it means we have more money. But let's keep that in mind for the
And
future.
state has just figured out that this is, they mandate some things and they have some responsibility to pay for what they mandate. So,
there.
all right.
Okay. Start at the top. So during the discussions with the departments, there was an initial ask from the sheriff for 5 vehicles. I think we did an estimation of what if that was 4 vehicles. Based on the discussion earlier, I've left that 4th vehicle in here as a item for consideration and estimated it at $45,000. Cost.
Was this a patrol vehicle? Remind me.
This was,
Right, but I mean, I can lay it out depending on which vehicle you removed.
Okay, so the.
The original ask was for 3 patrol cars. The detective was obviously contingent on the detective position, and then a jail transport vehicle. Those were the 5 original.
There's the 5.
But obviously the one was contingent on the position also.
Right.
Gotcha.
So this doesn't address, this only addresses one of the 5 you originally were looking for to begin with, because in the budget right now, I think there's only 3. So
Correct. And
Right.
to,
So we don't want to mess up our patrol vehicle rotation, correct? That, so the question would be then tied to jail transport, and how critical is a transport vehicle
well,
to next year?
If we were to limit, to be honest, I would rather the jail transport vehicles in 2011. Mileage aside, maintenance has started to increase. If we nix the vehicle, I would nix a patrol vehicle. I'll make that work more than I can make the jail transport vehicle work.
Okay.
So it would be then down to 2 patrol cars, a jail transport vehicle, and contingent detective, depending on your other decisions later.
So may I ask this? Do we were getting awfully low on our motor pool fund. Is there funding in our motor pool for the 4 vehicles?
so the way I think about this, and again, open to challenge, but understanding that that's a separate fund. As I look at this from a budget standpoint, I'm considering what we're approving is the movement from the general fund, an amount that would equal 3, 4, 5 vehicles, depending on the ask. And so I believe we need to take a look at the motor vehicle pool and the allocation rate that per mile. I think it's been a while since that's been looked at. That would cause that fund to be lower. I think where you're going, Commissioner Lautner, is do we want to, go ahead?
Or higher, right? Is that what you're saying? Are we not taxing the departments enough?
You'd want to charge more to build that fund balance
Okay.
up, I believe.
Yes.
But to me, that's a cost allocation exercise, and what the budget is, so it needs addressed, and I don't want to diminish that, but I don't think when we're considering the impact on the general fund, I'm looking just at the cost of those vehicles that we would be
We
investing.
generally pay for those out of the motor pool fund, am I correct?
Correct. But what
But we don't have enough in the motor pool fund.
But what we're asking, what's in the budget right now is 3 vehicles at $60,000-ish, something like that. In effect, what we would be doing is funding that via the budget, in my mind. And then the allocation will be addressed, which is a kind of a cost recapture, management accounting kind of a convention in my mind.
if I can hop in, I mean, if we were to, which I agree needs to happen, the allocation probably needs to be done, but if the allocation increased with motor pool, then the entire other budget increases to fund the increased allocation, so.
But that's for future vehicles. Well, yes, of course, but we drew, so we put this very process in place a number of years ago so that we would have money to buy new vehicles. We never had to say, oh, can we afford a new sheriff's patrol vehicle? No, we have that because we've been setting aside this motor pool fund. But I know we drew down our motor pool fund, so where is our motor pool fund right now?
I can get you the balance. It is not enough to pay for 3 vehicles.
It's not enough to pay for 3, let alone 4 vehicles. So what you're saying then, instead of being able to pay for it out of motor pool like we always have been doing in the past, is Jim has a question.
And I see where you're going, and I agree, but I think part of this is now we're looking at sheriff's office vehicles, and that motor pool fund pays for more than one. Pays for maintenance vehicles that weren't planned, paying for inspection vehicles that weren't planned, paying for other department vehicles that weren't planned. We are an every year ask. We put in money since day one in some of these places. I mean, they're getting new vehicles out of cycle that aren't planned, mid-year, that kind of thing.
Is that true? No, so do we?
If you'd like me to
Would you
clarify, Jim,
please?
last year, the general fund did pay for Jerry's new truck. And Sean and I had a conversation, I believe last week, Sean, about motor pool.
Yeah, I don't know where you're going. So
Right.
what?
No, that's okay, so.
No, it's not. I think, guys, I don't think I'm struggling with why it matters.
Well, it only matters because we've always had that money available to buy the vehicles, and I know we had the discussion last year that we were running low on that fund. So I think I see what you're saying. You're saying, we'll just pull it out of general fund, but we've never had to do that, so it is gonna be a curveball to us. So if we pull it out of general fund, we are still going to have to raise up the motor pool allocation amount to build it back up to not only cover what we're gonna be spending in 2024, but to also have money in that fund to buy future vehicles for 25 and 26. Or we're gonna be just constantly pulling it out of, we've lost that cycle is what I'm saying.
And I understand that. I thought we were going through our list and thumbs up or thumbs down.
Okay.
And on this, the fourth sheriff's vehicle, I remember very clearly the undersheriff said, we're gonna make it work if you don't get that fourth one. So I said no. So my thumbs down on this one.
I would say no until we figure out our allocation. If we're on a cycle, I think we have to figure out our allocation.
I said it just because I thought that's what we were going to do.
Yeah, that's fine, that's great.
So,
That's
so
what
just
you're
to be clear, so that's
Might
right.
have a no right now because we don't have the funds.
But that's also a no to the detective position, then, because the position can't be supported without that vehicle, right? So you're saying no to both of those, so.
That's a fifth vehicle.
No.
That's where I guess I was confused. My original ask was for 5. There was discussion if we could go to 4. Now I just recently heard we're nixing the 4 and we're back down to 3. That's where I'm confused.
So you just said 2 of those were.
Original was 3 patrol cars, detective in the jail.
So you're down to 2 patrol and a jail with 3, right?
Correct.
That's what I heard you say. So no to this car, I'm just being clear, no to this is a nix on the detective because he'd have a detective that can't drive it.
I said yes to the detective because I thought Jim said when we got there,
I can go from the original ask of 5 down to 4. 2 patrol cars instead of 3, still the jail car instead of asking for 3 patrol cars, I'll only ask for 2, the jail car stays, those are the 3. And then the detective car would be 4, depending on the detective.
The 3 that we have in the budget now serves the 2 patrol and the jail.
Actually, it serves 3 patrol, which are more expensive than the jail.
Either way,
Yes.
it does not cover the detective car, the 3 that are in the budget, that's, I guess, why I
The
drilled it down to
detective
one
car is a
thing.
full extra ask, as technically is the jail car, but I swapped that for a patrol car, so.
All right, like, to make it
Isn't-
as clear as
isn't
I
the-
can,
Isn't the detective also an ask?
Yes.
it is, but I just make it clear we understand, if we say no to your 4th car, we're saying no to the detective.
No,
And if we say
Yes.
no to
I'm down
the
to
detective,
3
we
and
don't
no
need the
detective.
car.
I don't think they can be more clear, is it, are we still not under, am I misstating it? I mean,
no, I understand what you're saying, but I don't think this is consistent with what we heard. I mean, we ought to go back to the narrative in the book and see what we've got. Because I clearly wanted to support the detective, but I heard Jim say at our original meeting that we could not do the additional vehicles. And I thought that was the additional 4th vehicle.
is there one detective car right now?
Yes, there is.
Well, it seems to me that we need an additional detective. over here. Share a car or who's paying mileage, I don't know. I see your argument, if we get rid of the car, we got rid of the detective position. No, we need the detective position. And Jim, what's the maximum allowance on the patrol car right now, Mike?
There is no cap.
So what are they running?
No, there are 2 different rates. There is an allocation rate for less than 80,000 and an allocation rate over 80,000. We have cars that are upwards, well, I have one right now, it's upwards of 160,000. And I mean, they're not. I've heard discussion, these are vehicles that at a moment's notice have to go 110 miles an hour. They have to be safe. They have to be roadworthy. And when you get to a point of 120 plus, they're not as safe as they need to be. Now, if the discussion has come down to whether 5 is off the table and we're at 4 or we're at 3, honestly, Commissioner O'Rourke is right. A detective is very important. And if it will strain us, but we can make it work. If we're down to 3 cars, period, then I guess it'll be 2 patrol cars and I'd rather have a detective vehicle and we won't make the jail get by for another year. But these asks don't go away. They, like the dispatch equipment, the problems don't dissipate. They just come back next year. So however you land is your choice. I'm open to any questions.
So I guess to be clear, that eliminating that car does not eliminate supporting the detective position. You can find a way to make it work, but only for a limited amount of time. I mean, one thing we gotta keep in mind is if we said yes, you then can order it. And so by the time you get those vehicles, the replacement vehicles, they got another 25,000 miles on them than what they have right now by the time you get that car. So
Right, 'cause I think a safe assumption is 25 to 30,000 miles a year we put on every vehicle, almost every vehicle.
20 to 30,000. And what is the allocation per mile? We're charging you. What's in this budget?
Remember, I don't have an allocation in there.
Because if we were to up that to be able to pay for these vehicles in the future, as you said, it's just gonna kick it down the road. We've gotta have, we should have some money set aside for those. So that would change all of these figures too.
Right, and I agree with his allocation assessment because I mean, a patrol car that I buy and outfit and put on the road is, I mean, for this year's ask is $60,000. It's not that long ago, they were $45,000.
Right.
I mean, but yet the allocation we kicked back to the county for rental hasn't changed in decades.
We gotta change that. So that's what it says, that's what it is. So that's
I
gonna
think-
change the numbers.
I think everyone is in agreement with changing allocation, but we're not gonna get anywhere on the budget if we don't just figure out we're buying a car.
Well, I know, but as you said, is it going to add 100,000? Well, or is it going to add 60,000? We're gonna add might as well add another $180,000 to this list then, because we've got to up that allocation so we can.
I could be mistaken.
100,000.
Are any patrol car purchases in the current budget, proposed budget?
We
In the
assume
book.
3.
There's 3 in the book.
For a total of, do you know what that number is?
100, I forget, 180,000.
180?
I think
So
they were
that
the
would-
patrol vehicle.
That would pay for 3 patrol vehicles, okay, give or take a little bit. So essentially, and I can tell you the jail vehicle is approximately $15,000 less a piece. The detective vehicle is approximately $15,000 less. All told, it's about a 270 ask,
I think that's-
if that helps. I mean, essentially, you give me a number, I will make the numbers work. 270 ask, only 180 is accounted for,
I
160,
believe that's right.
if that helps.
The original ask is on page 14 of your budget book and the supplemental.
Just trying to be absolutely clear, because Commissioner Westall, I do support the detective, I'm just trying to make sure that you're making it clear, 3, doesn't throw everything else out, we just have 3 cars in the budget, that's what we have allocated right now. If we don't add a car, you can make the detective work, if we want to support the detective, yes or no.
Yes,
Okay, that's the answer, I guess.
So, you know my vote.
Yeah.
Jim?
Or the detective or what?
This is separate, this is just.
First item on the.
If you can make it work.
You can make, everything will be safe, you're confident that it's still, I mean, you'll need that vehicle next year, but you can get through next year safely without adding that fourth vehicle, correct?
Okay, sorry.
yes.
Then I would,
3 down.
No doubt.
The clerk needs to,
Yeah.
hear.
Here, so I didn't hear Jim. What was Jim?
Hey, let's put it in a yes or no, okay, what is? Because I'm confused what they said, and he said, and we get rid of the comment.
I'm on number, if I believe I'm on number 44, which is a vehicle, and are you a yes or no? Wessel is no.
Very top.
If it's a vehicle, no.
Okay,
But
thank you.
As long as it doesn't interfere with the detective.
Okay. Got it. Okay, Ross was okay, thank you.
No,
No.
Okay,
And I don't know right now.
okay. Thank you.
And Gwen, you can't vote on this, I think, although I don't know. What do you think? These are
I mean, it's
binding
work
votes.
stuff,
It's
I
already-
wasn't that,
These
These
are
aren't
just,
binding votes,
these are
so-
just straw votes, so I don't see why.
Everybody comfortable with that?
Yes.
okay.
I am
vote?
here in Vermont, guys. I think, give me a break.
I want to just make sure we're following the rules. Everybody comfortable with when weighing in?
Yes,
Okay.
Yes, if it doesn't violate a rule, that's right.
Yeah. it's budget work session. So was she yes or no?
No,
Gwen was a no?
yes, no.
Hey.
Yes and no.
Done with the first line. I think we could be done by February, March.
We're optimistic.
Dishwasher's easy. He needs a dishwasher, I'm a yes.
Yes.
Dishwasher, yes.
If anybody, I mean, if it was not highlighted, it probably means, but everybody comfortable with jail, dishwasher?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposition? Emergency services telephone recorder?
I mean, yes.
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 Anybody know?
Can someone explain this,
What's end of life? Sounds end of life, but
what is it? What, I don't know what that is.
He was-
That's supported by a manufacturer.
No longer serviceable or being able to be fixed if it breaks.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay, that's where we're at, okay.
Manufacturer doesn't have. well,
I thought-
parts or maintenance. so-
Maybe you were like dipping into hospice or something.
I know, yeah. Okay, yes.
Okay, let's do it this way. All in favor of the telephony recorder, yes, raise your hand, yes. Opposed? I think that's 7. Emergency services consoles, 911 consoles,
That one
That's been bumped.
That's been
Yeah,
talked
we're on
about too.
everybody?
And I just wanted to, just when we were at break, I asked Matt, I did ask Matt, about the console thing. He said that's contingent on flooring. And I mentioned to him, I know I've been sitting here since the very beginning, I didn't see a flooring request.
Yeah, me neither, but I didn't dig.
He mentioned it, so then we went to break, I was like, so he needs the floor, right, before the console, and so he was gonna talk to Jerry, I just wanted to update you, he's gonna ask Jerry.
I think we're the same
Yeah.
time.
I thought the 125 included the carpet, because I thought I could be wrong, because it's
Right.
been a while since they got the quotes. but-
Yeah, so I think you probably wanna clarify, he mentioned it to me that it's contingent on flooring, and I said, I've been sitting here, but we didn't have a request for flooring. So I think maybe just Deb and Matt, Jerry, if it's a bigger project or something.
Well, they're gonna come back to us for next year anyway.
So it's
and they-
postponed anyhow.
Yeah, to ask about flooring.
Right, okay.
Then we're down to elections, the 25,000 for office supplies.
Yes.
Yes.
Have a little discussion for me to understand. I thought we had applied for a grant for this. My
Yes.
understanding of that, so I'll be a no. When I say no,
I
that means
think
it's funded by the grant.
I think they've covered what they could with grants, but we have to make sure the money's there if they don't get the money.
Right, I think we have to budget it. We have to have elections. There's no two ways about
It
that.
is my assumption that these are extra expenses because of the change in the voting procedures and that this cost would be reimbursed by a grant, but can you respond to that, Jen?
Allison just popped her head and I said to grab Michelle, because I don't know what the placeholder meant. So she's gonna grab Michelle so you can get clarification if it's grant related or if it's.
When we passed
That
a
discussion
motion to support the clerk's plan, we were told that there wouldn't be any additional expense for that, but there would be grant payment.
That's my recollection. She never applied and the state had money. She didn't know for sure how much she'd get, but she'd get.
But we better make sure that we've got the money just in case. Because it's money we've got to spend.
Our townships are definitely going to need help from our county clerk.
Pardon?
I said our townships are definitely going to need help from our county clerk for these next elections, especially next fall. And the idea of having voters run through here is just ideal in my mind. Come in, securely vote, and out.
Is the clerk coming?
Yeah.
So can we move to the next
I
one?
think
while we're
she's
waiting?
coming this way. Yeah, she's coming
Then
around.
if you want to jump past those, that medical examiner, this is a really small amount and I have it in the wrong column, but we did get notice that the rate was increasing next year. I think this is just it is what it is. It's my understanding. It's too. Correct.
The medical examiner?
We have to have a
Aye.
yes.
So that's,
That's 7.
Okay.
So we now have the clerk to speak to the elections expenses here, the 25,000, 10,000, and 30,000. And the question was, we were under the impression those were grant funded. Yeah, please do.
Or some grant reimbursement, how are these going to work?
So these are, Sean picked the word placeholder for me because when I talked to him about it, there is, like today, I just went ahead and ordered some stuff. And there are some things that are coming back that will be reimbursed by grants. So for next year, we know for sure we've got the presidential primary. We'll probably have a May election. We'll have August and we'll have November. The presidential primary, for sure, election day will be in reimbursed, not only for me and for all of the townships, but those are just more operating costs. Those aren't personnel costs. My understanding is that under the presidential legislation that exists, the 9-day early voting should also be available. This is in there to hold. It's not, elections, if you look at the trends in it, they tend to go higher and lower just depending on the year. Counties right now are starting to order their equipment because they only had, I don't remember what the number was, too, Sean. I thought it was like 26 million is what they have statewide. And I know they just contacted me today that I want to start ordering some of the equipment. I don't want to commit us to something that, one, I don't have board approval for it and if we're going to get it. But we will recoup. May election, I will recoup what I can, but I still have to pay it out and it never, the reimbursements don't come to the budget. So yes, some of this is grant, but the new stuff I'm ordering, I just don't know what the costs are going to be trying to run this out of here. I am going to build townships back what I can, but of course it's going to hinge too on the coordinator position too, as to what I'm going to directly pay versus what they are. I will have increased cost for each election cycle for paying out the workers that have to work. But that will be billed back to them. So I don't know if I'm answering your question because I came in.
If most of these costs are anticipated to be reimbursed, would it make more sense to take that out of your regular budget now and then do an amendment later if we find that we don't get
I don't know, because like this one, oh, I'm sorry.
you have a contingency fund, right?
I don't want to get in a position to keep coming back and for some reason amnesia develops and I don't get the funding because I've got to spend it. Elections need to be funded. There is no, you can't not fund elections, but just because you approve it and put it into the budget, I don't view that as a license to spend either, if you're understanding. I'm not going to spend it just because you give it to me. Now, the one thing on here that may not be, and it certainly is not 30,000, but we did put the additional money in there for capital outlay. The state, and it's still not clear, I have to have a new laptop. I don't know if the state's ordering those direct and going to pay for them. They haven't determined yet on the VATs. Now, they should give me 2 VATs. That's a voter assist terminal for ballot on demand. And I'm also looking for an extra one. The extra one will not be reimbursed. That is for my training purposes. I can't train without the proper equipment.
Could we write a balance and say, all right, you know you're gonna get something, we can't tell it, let's take a stand and say you're gonna get half of it, you're pretty comfortable you get half of it back.
And remember, I have to go, though. I have a lot of this. I also have to give back, depending on what it is, to the townships based on a percentage basis. It's not going to come 100% to the county.
And what if it comes in higher? So
Oh, there's not enough money to come in higher. I mean, I've played by the rules to try to consolidate this as much as I can, but there's not enough money statewide. I'm happy to work with whatever you're most comfortable
So a
with.
total of 65,000 is a safe number, is what I'm trying to get at.
Oh, is that safe? Yeah, that's more than safe, because if my presidential primary costs the county, just the county, let's say 35,000, I will get that back. Now, remember, I may not get it back till September 30th, the day before their fiscal year ends.
So does this, okay, so does this allow you to help our townships with the new voting regulations?
Yeah, this, and when you get to the lower below, it absolutely does. I just made some orders today because I've got money in the budget, and if I can get reimbursed, I will. But I had to place these orders. We got to get going on this.
Okay, so I'm a yes.
Here's what I'm struggling with.
Sure.
It's $65,000 that we think we're going to get reimbursed. But if we hold this in here in this budget, we've got to eliminate some things. We've just eliminated the sheriff's car that we know we need because we wanted to cut budget. I would prefer, knowing that this is an item, we'll take it on a contingency if we have to, but let's hope to be lucky with the grants.
Well, in the grants, I'm fine. Like I said, I'm going to work with whatever, but I just don't want us to have. I just need to know that I can run elections the way they need to be run. But I also don't want you to get a false sense that by not doing this.
What I think we need to be aware of is not making Michelle have to miss a date to order equipment for the election, or having to have her run in and have a special session so she can get something. We will know at some point whether or not this money, how much of this money is actually needed. But budgeting for it beforehand, make sure that our elections run unimpeded. She gets the equipment she needs to run a safe, effective election. And if she ends up not spending it all, or we get some of it back, that's money that's still in our budget.
Jamie. Oh, I'm sorry.
Jamie.
I just want to, I'm going to be a yes on this one, because I think as far as like as function goes and government's role and what we're doing here, elections are probably our primary, function here. Like, we have to make sure that they run smoothly. And I think if we get grants back and we figure out how we can allocate that to a different budget, that's great. But just making sure to safeguard those, because I think it's super important to serve our voters.
Anybody else?
I'm concerned about the reimbursement. So I say budget because, yes, okay, what if it is September before we're reimbursed? By then, we've got our clerk running in the red. So we're doing some.
I don't want to argue against myself. I don't want to argue against myself, because we do need money to run elections. But I don't want there to be a presumption that putting something in the budget is going to negate. If it exceeds a certain dollar amount, I will still need to come back to you before I just jump on it. And it will come down to timing. And you will, even though we may get like the presidential reimbursement, we will eventually get that, just so you know. It won't impact. You're just going to see it as a reimbursement to the general fund. It's not going to hit the budget directly.
So it does come back if we're lucky on the grant, or get the grant, it goes back to the general fund.
The presidential reimbursement will come back to the general fund. The grant, the way the state of Michigan has set it up, is it has to come through the county. Now, that being said, then I have to go and disperse that based on either population or registered voters by township. However, if I am the top election person and I am doing this, I am going to take and cover our county expenses before I go and start dispersing money to the townships.
Which means it could be then returned, it should be returned to the general fund.
Yep, I have not heard of any legislation that ties it, that it has to be reserved only for elections. No, that it would just come back to the general fund, yes.
Well, if it went to the, I mean, money's fungible, right? I mean, so you get an
Money's,
additional $25,000 that you had anticipated for postage, then you can say that's for anyway.
right, because actually you just bring up a good point, because one of the things, not to get you off topic, it's an expenditure I did not put in the grant. Every voter in this county has to be sent a letter notifying them that their early voting site will be at this building. Well, that takes paper, it takes envelopes, it takes time, it takes postage. That's a lot of postage to notify 20-some thousand people.
And another thing is too, as we're thinking about this, as we look at we just did last month, we looked at our year-to-dates, right? See where we were. So we can say, well, what did we just moved up? We moved something up into 2023. We're gonna put it off to 2024, and I don't remember what's right now. But we have that ability too. So we may get to the end of 2024 and say, this money came in, so let's go ahead and purchase that vehicle, or let's go ahead and start the 911 console changeover. So there's that to think about too. So money coming back into the general fund that we budgeted, not knowing if we were going to need it all or not, it's not a bad thing.
So with the understanding that the money comes back to the general fund, all those comfortable with leaving the 65,000 there, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
It's 6-1. Anything else while the clerk's here?
We have her other positions. You want to talk about that right now?
Which line number is it?
It's down in the pending staffing levels. It's just item I labeled as NA election staffing.
So we have to, we have to support that. We have to have staff to run elections. That is one of our jobs, to adequately fund our elections.
Townships.
Of course, we have to have staff to run the elections, but I'm not sure what this is.
Okay, I'm sorry, I just thought I was coming to possibly talk about the first day. I left the document in my office. I have to, under the county agreement, I have to do the county clerk must assign an election coordinator. Because with this coming under the county, the township clerks have all volunteered to serve as site coordinators, which are the 9 days before each election. Actually, it's 11 days, but that's just minor stuff no one cares about. And this is to help with making sure that we're properly set up correctly to run, that we have all the voters and all the workers that we need, that they're properly trained, that the site is going to flow. They're also going to be here while these sites are up and running. This is just a 1 year, 2024 position. This is not something that carries forward into 25 and beyond. I want to be careful how I say this so it comes out correctly. In order for me to do what the township clerks would like me to do, and the townships, to keep this consolidated under my umbrella, I need this position. Without the position, I will honor my commitment to them to do February. But we cannot take this on. I cannot personally take it on to do everything that I already do with elections, plus running these elections for this amount of days and everything that's going to come down with it, because it's also going to minorly involve our county election commissions. But it is just a one-time, 1 year, just like the agreements with the townships, because they may find in 26, if this is really utilized, this early voting, we might want to go to a different model, that maybe all the townships would want to set up early voting, Or maybe they'd want to do quadrants in the county, which will generate different, but this is really to assist me in assisting the townships. I mean, I can go into more detail. I can write you up something, but it is a 1 year only.
Questions for Michelle on this? Yes, Jeff.
I'll wade right into a hornet's nest here because they seem to be good at that, but in 2020, the clerk's budget was 445,000 when the clerk was doing finance and HR. The budget for 2024 is 675,000, which is a 52% increase from the 2020 budget. And when we anticipate that the clerk's office will not be doing any finance or HR.
Well, and I also lost 2 people that supplemented their time helping with clerk staffs. Plus, I think we had people off. I don't know what 600, are you combining everything, circuit court, county clerk and everything?
County clerk department total, I'm just looking on the budget page. And
I'm just looking at elections.
which I know it's just elections, but it's part of the overall duties of the clerk's office, so I'm just trying to understand the 52% increase from 2020 when finance and HR are coming out of the clerk's office.
Jen, you and I
Whether
discussed,
that position is actually available or not, so.
there is not staff to do the election coordinator within my office, not with the amount of training that we do. And I'm gonna do almost double the training in 2024 that I did in 2020. But if I can, just a second, Jen, didn't we talk about the difference? Because I think Commissioner Rexroth had asked this before about my budgets.
Sure we did.
And what, didn't you respond for me on that?
I believe one of the meetings, we talked about how in 2022, in the 21 cycle for the 22 budget, the board gave her an additional staff member. And then there's an administrative deputy in there as well. So she went from, well, it depends on how you look at it. Because there was 2 on the accounting side in 2020.
Correct.
And there was 4 on the clerk side. Three deputies. So there was 2 account clerks and 3 deputies there. So the 2 account clerks went away. 1 deputy was added. And then the one deputy went to administrative secretary. So the wages changed that way. So people wise, it changed between 20 and then 2020.
Yeah, that explains to me that people were added, is that what I'm struggling with is we've added people as duties have been reduced. That's, I guess, my first question, that's.
And this question has come up before, that.
I can do you a spreadsheet if you'd like.
Clerk's office, budget went up at a larger percentage than any other office, and yet we eliminated a couple of functions,
Yes,
so.
but you took, we put on, jury help, correct?
Yes,
Jury edit, jury help.
There's a
Does that-
part-time position in jury, that's correct. And
That's-
the clerk now, that's correct. The jury commission, part-time employee, once Kathy was utilized over in, accounting, she went down to accounting. She was our jury commission person, and that was also in this budget this year. It is
I
not
don't
pro-
see, this is a different discussion than staffing this person for the election. What I'm hearing is we are wondering about the staffing for the clerk's office. And I think the discussion started off with, are we going to fund this election position? And I would support that.
I think the question that I'm hearing is, or is there other staff, are there other staff in the clerk's office that might perform this function because they have more staff than they've had in previous years? I think it's a question we ought to answer.
Fair question.
We don't,
It's
We
a
do
very
not have the
long,
staff that's gonna do it.
exhaustive
You don't-
question.
yeah, you don't have jury commit, we don't have a jury commission employee stat proposed for 2024. So the staffing level would actually be the same, it's just that it's gonna be elections function versus jury. So in the 2023, you have a county clerk, a chief, an administrative, and 3 deputies, and a jury position, part-time, 21 hours. We took that over when Kathy went to accounting and we did not replace that position. So in essence, the elections work that she's looking to replace is a combination that person. You see what I'm saying? The staffing level doesn't change.
Out of fairness to the clerk's office and respect to our process, how about delaying this? And at our next budget session, have the clerk scheduled that you can have.
I can get you a little bit more information because I am going to, well, I have held off about trying to see if there can be reimbursement because I do want to emphasize that it is one. You're gonna, I think your budget's approved in November. I have I think it's 150-day out clause with the townships. And I will exercise that.
Everybody comfortable with delaying that and having that as a special topic at the next budget session? And maybe we could get an analysis
Sure.
in advance
I have
of
no
that,
problem.
we could take a look at.
And I'd like to confirm that we did support the 65,000 in expenditures that she will need to progress through.
You just
Here,
cut her by
prepping for the
10,000,
election.
right? You just cut her by 10,000. It was 65,000 that we approved.
I thought I said six. I did say 65. This Zoom thing is weird.
So we'll be back to that item. Let's keep going down. We got the childcare adjustment, Sean.
I think I spoke to that one. I had written a note, so I don't know whether there's a desire to have Cameron to revisit us. I'm open to that, but I have, like, I can show in any level of detail if that would help the commissioners with what that budget looks like. But I've captured, I guess. I'm not sure there's a decision there because honestly, Commissioner Wessel, this goes back to the state budget that we've already submitted.
As long as we have enough money in that account to pay those costs so we can get the reimbursement, right?
Correct.
And that's what, I think that's what Cameron was saying.
His budget has line item programs included in it that comprise the total submission to the state. And again, happy to share that what this is the confusing thing I think we've hit on a couple of times, the movement between funds. So there's always a decision in here in terms of, because this is a fund other than the general fund, in this case 292, where we're moving dollars out of the general fund to support. The question is, how much does it take to support that fund given X amount of state reimbursement? And so the assumption here that changed was the state's portion of that, if that makes sense.
All those in support of taking that $300,000 opportunity, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I think are you opposed or in support, Quinn? There's a
No.
delay, are you?
No,
Support?
I'm supporting. Yeah.
So we got that, okay? Then we got the substance abuse. We talked about that. Can you speak to it again, remind us?
I can. This is the line that's actually in the Board of Commissioners budget that we discussed the day that Sharon Freeland was here. Specifically, and I know this came up during the discussion, there's many line items that we work around related to substance abuse, some revenue, some expenses, but this specifically is in the proposed budget in the commissioner's account 970, there's a 967, there's a substance abuse prevention line for $30,000 that we've funded in prior years. And so as we put together the proposed budget, that 30,000 is in there, which is why the line here shows nothing. The decision point would be, there was discussion with Sharon, could we cut that amount and fund it differently or fund at a reduced rate? And ultimately, should this be a continuing line in the Board of Commissioners department?
I think Sharon said that she could make that work. And it still left more money than she's had in the past for her program with lift and substance abuse by a good amount.
So I think there's,
We're gonna draw down a little bit on, I can't remember what account.
The liquor tax and.
Liquor tax, so we're gonna draw down some of those account balances to fund that.
Jamie.
I missed the meeting with Sharon. I don't know if have I met Sharon yet, Ricky?
She's
the one that coordinates the meetings.
Okay,
last time.
okay. Are we talking, what are we talking about funding exactly? Is it the substance abuse and prevent? I know Ricky knows what I'm getting at here. So
In the plan
can
that
you
Sharon,
explain it to me? I'd like to hear Ricky's version because we're both sitting in the same space.
Did you see, oh, you have that one? No.
We weren't at that meeting. So.
That's the handout, so I don't know if you can.
It's a lot of chicken scratch.
She proposed she could do it with less money.
So like the 15,000 is what we normally,
There's,
yeah, LCFCC. And then she had an additional 30,000 in there, and she had these two amounts. So I think we kind of came to a conclusion that we were gonna not budget at 104, but at 74. And then she said she was okay with that.
So we're mixing the 30 in there.
Yeah.
so by funding her at 74,000, all those in support of that, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
You're opposed, Quinn?
Yes.
Okay, 6-1.
So that means that then it's a no on the line item then, right?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, just so that we're all clear.
But just so we're clear, we're still giving her 74,000, which is considerably more than she's had in previous years. And
So
And I-
has there been discussion about like reorganization at all?
she
Okay.
shared that as we went through all of that.
Okay,
So yes, it'll be running through. Lift, so which then takes some of the, she doesn't have to keep ask every for $26.
Why are you opposed to that?
You know, frankly, I don't know enough about what she won't be able to do, and I always believe in spending money to support our families, our kids. I think that's just important work.
I know you're a major supporter of this, and it just shocked me that she came in and said she could do what she could do with the money she had. I know you're a fantastic supporter of substance abuse and things like that. It just shocked me that you say no.
let's go
Yeah,
down
but
to
it
item
doesn't-
number,
It doesn't affect anything that I did.
let's go down to item 35, to reseal the parking lot. Am I the only one that wanted to delay that a year?
I did, and I said no.
I'm open to it if we can do
My
it.
driveway is 19 years old. But I've been delaying it.
I walked around the other day and I thought it looked pretty darn good.
Well, we had some, last year we had some bad cracks and stuff starting here. They came in and they filled a lot of it, but through here in the sheriff's office.
Want to speak to that?
Well, I just know that it's on a cycle, and I think we're at least a year over the current cycle. Might even be 2, but to that point, it's
I think we need to do it myself. I mean, yes.
Can we leave that one as dependent on what other things happen? I mean, I have a total in my mind that I'm willing to go to.
Well, are we comfortable with leaving that for a little bit later?
See what other yeses we have. I mean, when we say yes to something, we're saying no to something else. That's the simple
Well,
reality.
and yeah, I'm having a hard time justifying a yes on that and a no on the sheriff's vehicle. That's.
Then we got,
And I also think it's important to know whether it's 1 year behind or 2 years behind or any years behind. If it's 2 years, that's a completely different thing.
can you speak to the new vehicle?
This was the request Jerry presented a couple meetings ago, that it was an additional vehicle. It was not in the original budget, but he was speaking, I believe, to Dwayne's truck, not to put a name on it. Is that right?
Yes, rusty, it doesn't look good, but it is operational, is my understanding. And you were at that, I think that kind of sums up the gist of where it's at. It's functional. Gonna need to be replaced.
Rusty right now.
Yeah, it doesn't look good at all, but it still does the job it's intended to be doing for now. Yeah.
All those comfortable with delaying the purchase of that for a year, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
You're opposed? 6-1.
I am going to have to retire for this afternoon. I'd also just like to ask if we could possibly structure these meetings so we have our business at hand and we get that finished first, and then any sort of Zooms or anything that is kind of in excess, we do at the end of the meeting, so we can, be respectful of time and finish.
You're speaking to the point update?
Yeah, yeah.
We were trying very hard to schedule the CEO yesterday, and this is the time that they were available.
Well, if they're asking for the time, they should make the time.
Okay, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Just Commissioner Wessel, did time check, I know you wanted to be.
I'm
finished.
comfortable wrapping up for the day if everybody else is. But we need to talk about next meetings then.
I think we have one tentatively, when we have next Wednesday, tentatively on the schedule right now. Yep. At least I do have that reserved right now.
When,
Yeah.
next week?
Yes, I'm planning to be
Next
there.
Wednesday, right? That's what I have.
I'm planning to be here on Zoom rather.
We expect a different backdrop. Okay.
Under the sea.
No, I have to
So
come back.
on that agenda, we'll continue doing this, and we will have the clerk's office staffing.
Yes, so the takeaways I had, I think we checked through most of them. Matt, I had initially, but I believe he closed that loop with us. There was a question about Cameron. I don't think there's a desire for that. There was a question about the motor vehicle fund. I can do a little bit of homework on that. There was the clerk, and then I think I heard a question still, even though we tentatively said yes on the parking lot, what's year cycle that is? And so I can get those as follow-ups, if that makes sense.
Anything else for Sean today?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Any public comment? Any commissioner comment?
Yeah, Sean, are we going along at the speed we need to do,
Well-
or that's the major question?
If you'll take a look at that last slide that I handed out, there was a timeline on what would be needed to try to get to a November adoption formally. And so there's a little bit of contingency time in there, but we're probably getting close to needing we need to put an advertisement in a paper, which gets ahead of a public viewing, which gets ahead of a board session. So next week would be pretty key.
Okay, please let everybody know, or try, and let's just make sure that we're on
I've got that, yeah,
schedule,
no,
okay?
Sean, I think between Jamie and I, she may have scooped up.
Yeah.
I'll get.
How much time do we have scheduled for next Wednesday?
9 to noon.
Maybe we have to extend that, I don't know.
Yeah, I
Well, we
think we
don't
ought
normally put an end time anyway, right? So it's 9 till done. I mean, if we gotta sit here all day.
I think we ought to be working faster than we are. But so let's send out that we hope people can meet until early afternoon.
The posting said 9 till done, but it sounds-
Well, wait.
That was what we had talked about.
It sounds
but-
good. No, it
Well,
sounds.
just so they can clear the room, to schedule another meeting, know that we may be going till 2 o'clock or whatever.
So we can accommodate the people that
Right.
have other things in their
So
life.
Yeah, it's crunch.
Jen knows
It's getting
somebody's gotta be
crunch
here
time.
possibly till next
Yes,
week, and yeah, who knows how long.
Thank you, Sean.
Thanks, John.
Meeting, motion to adjourn?